Hi everybody, it's Terry with paperologist.blogspot.com, and today I'm coming at you with some quick videos on some cards that I made. And so the first one is, this is kind of a sample technique card for me. I used a Mama Elephant stamp for the sentiment and a Hero Art stamp for the background, and then Tim Holtz Distress inks for the coloring. And then this is white embossed with just some basic recollections embossing powder and Versamark ink. So there's the card. This first stamp, as I mentioned, is from Hero Arts, and the item number is S5634. I'm not exactly sure what the name of this stamp is, but if you wanted to find it on their website, you could do that by that number. I picked this up from a local scrapbook store called Cool Scrapbook Stuff in Poway, California. They were having a Hero Arts, what they were calling a trunk show. And then the sentiment for the card, as you can see here, it's a really nice big sentiment. It is from Mama Elephant. It's a clear stamp set. It stamps beautifully. I used this with the Fiskars stamp press and had really good success because it is so large. I think that tool gives you a lot of opportunity to kind of press down. And as you can see on my sample card here, I kind of missed a little bit. So I think that that's a great tool. And then this sentiment down here, I was actually going to use on the Mother's Day card that I'm going to show you, but I opted to use something different. And then those little stars stamped really pretty as well. So I used those on a different card. And then this baby card, we have a coworker who's going to have a baby at my work, and so I went ahead and made a baby card for the baby shower. And I found this card sketch online. I just Googled card sketches and up it came. I'm sorry that I can't tell you exactly where it was attributed from, but I amended it a little bit. I added this little leaf because when I die cut, I had some extra room, so I just went ahead and added some other things to take advantage of the paper. This particular paper is self-adhesive. It came from Joann's, and so I wanted to make sure that I maximize that. So this is the Technique Tuesday stamp set that this little die cut came from. It's called High Banner Card. And I think that this is probably for a Project Life kind of thing, but it worked well for this purpose. And what I also used were these alpha stickers from Target from the Dollar Spot, and they're kind of peeling up. I also used some Wink of Stella pen here. I'm not sure if it's going to capture that or not. And then I used some more Wink of Stella here for just a little bit of shimmer. And then that green line was part of the die cut. And so I just kind of traced that with a Spica glitter pen. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the way that this card turned out. And just a quick tip, the background light green color here, what I did was I actually die cut something out of the center that I just kept. Because I knew that I would be covering up the majority of the green, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose that resource. So that's a tip. And then this part right here, I actually just hand cut out of the paper. And it was originally in the original drawing, it was a scallop. But the scallop that I had readily available was too small. But I did, even though I had die cut out the scallop, I did reuse it here inside for the card. So there you go. And to make the button stick, I used glossy accents. I think that's a really great adhesive. Now, for the whole reason why I thought I should do a video, I made this Mother's Day card, and this is the sentiment that I used. And it's from a company called Sparkle and Sprinkle. I am pretty certain that I've got this at the Scrapbook Expo in San Diego, or one of those type of places. So I think it's really a nice sentiment. I think it's just very thoughtful. So because this is the Mother's Day card design that I had picked, and I really wanted to use this die cut, I knew that I have a lot of space here. I didn't want to add a whole bunch more paper or anything like that. I wanted the focus to be on the sentiment and the simplicity and the line of the die cut. So this is that same green paper from the baby card. It was just an extra scrap. And as I mentioned, it's self-adhesive. This was a scrap of paper as well. So I just paper pieced over these. And I really kind of only die cut out this area. And I just freehand stamped the sentiment, which is a cling mount or easy mount kind of stamp. And then I thought it looked a little plain, so I went ahead and decal cut with a die the bottom, and then I reused that part that got cut off. This is the decal edge die. I reused it and I colored it. I just took a variety of inks, and I wanted something that would be similar in color to this, but I didn't have any more of this paper. This was, like I said, kind of just a scrap, and this was a second thought. So the decal edge was kind of nice, and I wish I had some of those decal scissors still. But the real point of the video, I digress, is the sentiment. And the sentiment was the second to the last thing that I did. And I just instinctually pulled out my Stamp-A-Majig because this is the wood mount stamp that I have for the sentiment, and it's an older Amuse stamp, and you know, I don't have a lot of Mother's Day stamps, and certainly didn't want to go buy a new one when I have that one, and I really like that font anyway. So I thought, okay, well, I don't use it a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and use my Stamp-A-Majig. The Stamp-A-Majig is also known as a stamp positioner. And a Stamp-A-Majig is just one of the brands. You might see it in another color, like I think they're black from Stampin' Up. And then here's another one. This one's more like a ruler, and I really like it because of the ruler feature, and it's just a good size one. So this is another model of that. So what I did was I take the stamp positioner and I take the imaging sheet and I butt it up into the corner. And I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp. And you just go straight down and pull straight up. Now, what I noticed immediately when I stamped this was how crooked it looked to me. I thought, wow, did I stamp badly? So what I did was I just rotated it around, made sure that it was really snug in the corner, kind of have my finger here holding it up and down. Now, it's definitely crooked. Now, so even though the label looks fine, I think what happened is when it got mounted going uphill. So never fear, that's why the stamp positioner is a great tool. Not all stamps are, especially mounted squarely, even the ones that you might use like a clear stamp because you're mounting it yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some scrap cardstock here, and I'm going to take this other stamp positioner and I'm butting up my paper against it, or if you have a T-square ruler. And then I'm just going to take my pencil here and I'm just going to draw a really faint line. So that gives me a guide of where I want to stamp, especially with a single line sentiment like that. And for me, it's important that it be square or straight. So you take your imaging sheet and you line it up wherever you want it to be. This can be particularly helpful if you're trying to match up stamps next to each other too, not just sentiments. So that looks good to me. I take my stamp positioner, I butt it back in, and move this out of the way. Ink up my stamp, make sure that it's right side up, and down and straight up. And it looks pretty doggone straight, especially when you compare it to that one. Let's see if you can see a little bit better with the original. So there you go. Now, one last tip. This ink, I'm using a VersaFine I get it on my fingers. VersaFine, and this is the Vintage Sepia. And it says fine detail instant drawing. So we have no reason not to believe them, but to be extra careful, I would just take my heat gun and I would just zap it for a couple seconds to make sure that you set the ink. Depending upon which type of ink you use, you may need to heat set it. Because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to erase away the line. The other tip before I do that is this doesn't really set, so you want to make sure that you clean this off, especially because you don't want to get ink inadvertently on your project again. Okay, I'm going to use a white eraser instead of my red pencil eraser because I'm using white paper, and it looks like the ink's nicely dried. If you heat set, you don't have to try to remember which one dries quickly and which one doesn't. And there you go. So that gives you an idea of a really nicely stamped sentiment, very straight, even when your stamp positioner one is off the mark. Here's the finished card again. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to comment or thumbs up this video, I sure would appreciate it. Again, I hope you have a great day crafting and have fun, and happy Mother's Day.